Okay, so when I say ham radio, what pops into your head? Probably someone in a dark basement, hunched over some big crackly radio, talking to strangers on the other side of the world, right? Well, you're not wrong, but that's just one tiny piece of it. The reality today is this huge, sprawling, and sometimes kind of weird universe of tech and communities. So let's just dive in and see how deep this rabbit hole really goes.
We're going to kick things off with this quote from a veteran ham, Gary Pierce. Kind of blunt, right? But it absolutely nails the frustration that starts this whole journey for so many newcomers. And he's talking about the one piece of gear almost everyone buys first.
And here it is, the handheld radio, the HT. This thing is basically the gateway drug for amateur radio. It's where almost everyone starts out, because it promises this simple, easy, take-it-anywhere communication. And you know what? The appeal is totally understandable.
I mean, just look at this. It's easy to see why they're so popular. These radios are ridiculously cheap now. You don't have to drill a bunch of holes in your car, you don't need a giant antenna on your roof, you just charge it up, turn it on, and bam, you're on the air. It's instant gratification. But that feeling often leads to a very specific and very common problem.
And this is the heart of it. This is the big problem. Your little 5-watt handheld can hear a powerful repeater. That's just a big antenna on a hill that rebroadcasts signals from miles and miles away. So you think, great, I'm connected. But then you try to talk back, and nothing. Your signal is just too weak to make the trip. It's like you can hear a foghorn from a lighthouse, but they can't hear you shouting for help.
And this is the big question, the crossroads that pushes so many people. What do? Do you go all in, get a more powerful radio, a bigger antenna, or do you look for a completely different way to talk to people? This very question has led to a fascinating and, kind of controversial evolution in the hobby, which brings us to our next stop.
Yep. Welcome to the world of network radios. This is where traditional radio frequency, or RF, smashes right into the internet. Believe me, this is not your grandpa's ham radio. This is a whole new beast, and it uses the tech that we're all carrying around in our pockets every single day.
So, what is a network radio? Well, at its core, it's pretty much a specialized smartphone. It uses apps like Zello or Echolink, and it connects you to people over a cell or a Wi-Fi signal. But the key thing is, it's built to look, feel, and work just like a classic two-way radio. But if it's just a phone, why not just use the phone you already have?
This chart breaks it down perfectly. First, you get a real, physical push-to-talk button, a big, chunky button you can feel. The whole thing is rugged. You can drop it and not have a heart attack. The speaker is crazy loud, so you can actually hear it in a noisy car. And that external antenna, it can often grab a better cell signal than the tiny one inside your slick smartphone. It's a tool built for a purpose.
And that's the real magic here, right? As long as you've got Wi-Fi or a cell signal, all those limitations of that little handheld just vanish. You can be talking to someone across town or on the other side of the planet with the push of one button. But for some folks, this still isn't pushing the boundaries of radio. For them, the real fun, the real challenge, lies way, way up the radio spectrum.
Okay, so now we're going to take a massive leap. We are leaving the familiar world of handhelds and internet radio behind, and we are venturing into the wild, challenging, and mostly empty frontier of microwave radio. This is where the real experimenters live.
Just look at that number. Let it sink in. 99%. That is how much of the amateur radio playground exists up in the microwave bands. It is a vast, unexplored territory that most hams never, ever touch. And trying to operate up here, it's a completely different sport.
I absolutely love this analogy. Standard shortwave or HF contesting, that's like basketball. It's fast, it's high scoring, you're making tons of quick contacts one after another. But microwave contesting, that's more like soccer. It's all about strategy and patience and setting up a few very difficult but very rewarding goals. The whole experience is just intense.
I mean, think about what this really takes. You're not just turning on a radio. You're planning for weeks, driving up some bumpy dirt road to a mountaintop, setting up all this complex gear that you probably built yourself, and then you're meticulously coordinating with another station hundreds of miles away, all just to make maybe a handful of contacts over a whole weekend.
Yeah, this little corner of the hobby is for the makers, the builders, the absolute pioneers. It's all about seeing just how far you can push a radio signal with gear you literally cobble together in your workshop. It's a deep technical challenge, but like any niche, it has its own very unique community.
Because, for every piece of technology, there's a group of people using it. And the ham radio community is, well, it's complicated. It's filled with some of the most helpful people you'll ever meet, but it's also got its fair share of frustrations and conflicts. So let's look at both sides of the coin.
So on one hand, there's a lot to love. This is a hobby where you can genuinely get help in an emergency. There's always new tech to play with, from software-defined radios to communicating through satellites. And with all that spectrum we just talked about, there's always a quiet spot to get away from the noise and just connect with someone.
But, on the other hand, yeah, some frequencies are just infamous for toxic political arguments. The rise of YouTube has created these so-called experts who are way more interested in clickbait than actually helping anyone. And then there are the practical things, like homeowners associations that won't let you put up an antenna, stopping you before you can even start. It really feels like two totally different worlds.
And this quote, it just nails that contrast perfectly. Remember that microwave community we just talked about? The ones who seem so isolated up on their mountaintops? Well, it turns out they have to be incredibly social off the air just to make the whole thing work. It's a super tight-knit community built on collaboration, a world away from the arguments you might hear on some other frequencies.
So where does that leave us? What have we learned on this little trip? Well, it's that ham radio isn't one single thing. It's not a monolith. It's a collection of dozens of different hobbies that are all just sharing the same airwaves. It's less about what the hobby is and a lot more about who you are.
Maybe you're the emergency communicator. You're the one who wants that reliable link for when all the other systems go down, the one who keeps that handheld charged and ready for a crisis. Or maybe you're the digital tinkerer. You're the person embracing those network radios, playing with software, and connecting with people over the internet in totally new and exciting ways.
Perhaps you're the mountaintop explorer, someone who loves mixing a passion for the outdoors with an extreme technical challenge, pointing a dish at a distant horizon just to see if you can.
Or maybe, just maybe, you're the homebrew builder. The person who gets the most joy not from talking, but from creating, from turning a box of random parts into a working piece of magic.
From a simple handheld that can't quite reach the repeater, all the way to a homemade microwave rig bouncing signals from a mountaintop, the journey is just vast. It proves that the oldest form of wireless social media is still innovating, still exploring, and still has room for anyone who's willing to listen. So the only real question left is, where do you fit in?